funny Seamus Stackpoole.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here, folks. You are a lovely looking audience, and I think we should give another massive thank you round of applause to Elaine for such a wonderful front staff. So, as Elaine said, my name is Seamus. That's Seamus, not see a moose, as one Italian lady thought it was yesterday. See a moose is not a name. See a moose is what a Canadian does every time they look outside their front window. But it is lovely to be here in Edinburgh. It's my first time here. Fantastic festival, and like all festivals, I love the great big massive queues that you get in. You know it's going to be really good when you get to the top, and you reach the top of the queue, and it's just an ATM that's out of order. That's always really good. There's actually a viral photo going around Facebook back home in Ireland of the Irish president queuing in the street for the ATM. Anybody here does anybody here know what the Irish president looks like? One half of a person does. But in Ireland, we have got a cute little president. That's the truth. Because if you take Dobby the house elf from Harry Potter and put him in a suit, that's what he looks like. Yeah, you want to just cuddle him. But like the Irish president, he queues in the street for the ATM. You wouldn't see the Queen of England doing that. And not because she's too important, but because she actually has an ATM inside Buckingham Palace. I think that's fantastic. She has a little machine in her own house that prints pictures of herself, and she can use it as currency. I tried doing that at home and I got 6 months. But I remember last year at Christmas we had our neighbour over, and our neighbour, she's from England, her name is Lizzie. She's not the same Lizzie that wears the crown, different Lizzie. And we finished dinner and she wanted to watch something. Now what do English people like to watch after Christmas dinner?
Hollyoaks.
Hollyoaks. That's the best answer I got. Well, she wanted to watch the Queen's speech. That's what she wanted to watch. You see, usually we don't even get top of the pops. But no, she wanted to watch the Queen's speech. Normally the Irish families after Christmas dinner, they just want to watch their families fall apart. But anyway, we put it on, like we looked around the room. Our Uncle Jerry Adams hadn't come down that year. It's going to be all right. And we're there and we're watching. She's very majestic, very, very regal, and she's saying, "During the year, I want you to look after one another, take care of one another, and know that I think of you always." And my 3-year-old niece looked at her mother and said, "Is that God?" Well, we laughed too. No. But no, it is fantastic being here in Edinburgh. Like Elaine mentioned, it's very metropolitan here. It's kind of catching up in Dublin. We even got like 1 or 2 burrito shops now. It's fantastic. And I like the sort of modern, cool, sophisticated places because they are nothing at all like where I come from. I'm from a county called Limerick. I'm actually from a very rural part of West Limerick. I don't know why I bothered saying a rural part of West Limerick. There is no part of West Limerick that isn't rural. You are not going to drive through West Limerick and think you've driven into Milan by accident. It's the kind of place where they're looking forward to having the 1980s installed. Like that's the level they're on. Like here in Edinburgh, you walk down the street and you see somebody with green and purple hair. That's all right. Where I'm from, that'd be considered taboo. It'd be a bit out there. Like here, somebody orders a triple chai latte. That's all right. Down home, that'd be taboo. Like here, you express 4 different emotional states in one day. That's all right. Down home, they would call the priest. Like my father, he's an example of a guy who's still behind the times. Because the last time I was visiting, he spent half an hour asking for the Mike Tyson thing. He's like, the Mike Tyson thing, you had it out last, you were using it. The Mike Tyson thing, where'd you put it? Where'd you put the Mike Tyson thing? Took us half an hour to figure out he was looking for the George Foreman grill. That's the level of technology. That's the summit of technology for my father, grilling equipment. And he's a very, like, he's old-fashioned, very macho sort of guy. Like, he's a carpenter. He doesn't bother with a saw or a hammer. He just shouts at the wood until it splits in half. He just punches the nails in by himself. And like, he wants me to be like him. So I remember one time, as like to sort of rite of passage, he sent me up a tree to find a nest of pigeons. This is what you do in West Limerick when your child is meant to be tough. You send them up a tree. And I climbed a tree and I find a nest of pigeons, and there are baby pigeons in the nest. And I have to say, human babies are way cuter than baby pigeons. Because a baby pigeon looks like a human testicle with a beak. They are horrible looking. And I told my father, I was like, Dad, I found a nest of pigeons. He said, good, now come down from the tree. And I tried coming down, but a tree is rather like a one-way system, because all the branches point upwards. And when I was trying to come down, I kept on getting stuck, kind of like a self-impaling marshmallow. So I had to go to the very top of the tree, and at the top of the tree I looked down at my father and I say, Dad, 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 get a ladder. He says, no. And he went inside and he watched Coronation Street. It wasn't until several hours later that my mother comes home, and being the massive humanitarian that she is, convinces my father to get the ladder. Now, my family's Catholic, we're not Jewish, but I think my father wanted that to be my bar mitzvah moment, you know? And you might say that's unfair, Seamus, like you were just a kid, you were small, you were only a little child then, your father should have expected so much from you. But I forgot to mention this actually happened in April. So maybe at a point. But like my mother, she's actually way better with technology than my father is. Like the grilling equipment, that's where he trips up. My mother, she's better, she's got a laptop. Now I have to say that my mother's internet browsing history is way creepier than mine. Because her #1 most visited website is something called RIP.ie. This lady knows what it is. The rest of you, it's a mystery. You don't?
I do, but it's not pretty good.
You don't? Well, I'll tell you, because it really isn't good. It's an obituaries website. That's what it is. Because that's what you do when you're a lady in your late 60s who lives in the middle of nowhere. You don't have a social life unless somebody else dies. You see, I love this because here, everybody is appropriately disgusted. Back home in Ireland, everyone's like, that's the same as my mother! I can relate to that! Here, in a normal society of functioning human beings, people are like, that's a little bit creepy. Because my mother's there on RIP.ie, clicking refresh like it's Ticketmaster. Like it's Ed Sheeran's about to come out. Sheila O'Reilly's dead. I get to wear my new hat this week. I mean, no, it's sad. It's sad. And she loves the sad stories. Like every phone call from home is like an episode of Game of Thrones. At least 4 people are getting bumped off. And there's no chance of them coming back in the next season either. But like, because my mother's on the internet, she knows about other internety things. Internety is a word. She knows about things like online dating, and she wants to give me advice on dating. And her advice is very simple. She's like, be careful. Now you be careful. Make sure you're careful now. Be careful. And I don't think, folks, if you saw me walking down the street on a date with any random girl, you're going to say to your friend, Jesus Christ, I think Seamus is being kidnapped right now. There is no class of female serial killer out there whose target market is overweight men in their late 20s on a low income. Late 20s? What do you mean late 20s? You thought early 20s, obviously. But she had 4 sons. She had no daughters to give her advice to, and that doesn't stop her giving her advice anyway. Like she'll say to me, it's like, Seamus, if you're going on a date, don't be wearing bright red lipstick now. And don't you be wearing a short skirt like a hussy. And don't you be giving it away on the first date now. And I say to her, well, Mum, I don't wear the bright red lipstick because I'm more of an autumn myself. And I don't wear a short skirt, but after going up and down all these goddamned hills in Edinburgh, I'm going to show off my legs when I get home. And I don't give it away on the first date. I tell my mother as much. I say, Mom, I don't give it away on the first date. But to tell you the truth, folks, I always offer. But my mother's advice isn't as bad as the crappy advice that they give in books and magazines. Like, people always say, be yourself. And we all have friends and family members, and if they were themselves on a date, they would die alone. Like, we all have friends who say things like, I think dogs should be allowed to vote, but not cats. Like, that isn't the sort of spicy conversation that gets you a second date. We have actually sparked a debate here. There might be a referendum on cats and dogs voting sometime in the future. We'll settle it at the polling station. But, if that person says that, they're going to hear this at the end of the date. They're going to hear this. The person's going to turn to them and say, well, it's been nice meeting you. And you don't want to hear that at the end of your date, because it's been nice meeting you is the bottom rung on the ladder of civility. It's been nice meeting you is like saying to somebody, well, this has been an evening. And now it is over. Because it's been nice meeting you. It's been nice meeting you has a secret silent ending. It's been nice meeting you ends with, it's been nice meeting you, but I never want to meet you again. You don't want to hear that on a date. Hello? Hi, folks. But you don't want to hear that on a date. And the thing is, I've heard that on a date. I've gotten that it's been nice meeting you, because I went on a date with a girl and she was fantastic. She was very witty, she was very clever, she was lovely. And somewhere just during the conversation, it all dried up and there's seconds of silence going by. And in my head, I'm screaming at myself. I'm thinking, say something. For the love of God, think of every book you've ever read, every movie you've ever seen, every piece of music you've ever listened to, all your life's experience, and you don't have something to say to this beautiful woman. Say something. So I did. I said, do you make your porridge with milk or with water? Yeah, she was like, it's been nice meeting you. Like, the advice about be yourself, it's not as bad as the other terrible advice people give, to never talk about your ex. They say never talk about your ex. Number one rule, do not talk about your ex. But think about this, you are on a date and it's going really well and the person's into you and they say, you are fantastic, you are beautiful, you are kind. How could anybody ever let you go? You have to tell me about your ex. And then you go, can't talk about that. That's against the rules. No, what you should do is you should tell them the truth and tell them, me and my ex, we dated for a while, and after a while we learned that there's no such thing as true love, and true love is an illusion. I mean, that only applies if you're a comedian. The rest of you are fine. But the other thing is the cliches people have, not just the advice, but the cliches about dating itself. Like, people say, I want to go out on a date with a genuine person. I'm afraid that the people who say this have been going on dates with counterfeit people. Somebody made out of papier-mâché topped off with a mop. What they really mean by genuine is you want to go on a date with a nice person. Because if you go on a date with Richard, but at the end of the date Richard kicks your cat and he pisses on your doorstep, Richard isn't very nice, but Richard is genuine. But folks, I told you, like, my mother, she gives me the advice on the healthy eating as well. Like I told you, she gave me the advice on the dating. She also tries to look after my health. She gave me healthy eating advice, and she says, you need to stop eating fatty foods now. You need to stop eating the sugary fatty foods, because you got your cousin's wedding coming up and you're going to be wearing a suit and the buttons are going to be shooting off the suit like bullets. You need to lose weight. And while she's saying this, she is shoving an entire cake inside my face. Because that's what the Irish mammies do. And I don't know, is like healthy eating actually catching on in the land of the deep fried Mars bar. But it is getting big back home, and I call it lunch wars. I see it in the canteen every day. It's lunch wars. It starts on Monday with Greg. Because Greg comes in with 5 leaves of lettuce, 3 cherry tomatoes, and just a sprinkling of ham. And everybody's there going, would you look at Greg's lunch? That's a very healthy lunch. Greg's a morally superior human being for eating such a healthy lunch. But every war escalates, and then you've Jenny, because Jenny comes in on Tuesday with a single rice cake. One rice cake with nothing but a suggestion of Marmite on it. And everybody's there, would you look at Jenny's lunch? Jenny's lunch is a way healthier lunch. Greg's a fat bitch compared to Mary. But every war, like there's an arms race, and it goes up and up until Terry comes in. And Terry comes in on Wednesday with a massive lunchbox. It's huge, and he puts it down on the table with a bang. And he looks at everybody, he makes eye contact with everybody at once. And he opens it up. I love Terry myself. And he reaches in and he takes out a photograph of some broccoli. And he licks it. Only once. Because that's going back into lunchbox for lunch on Thursday. Terry wins lunch wars. I'm never winning lunch wars. I am Switzerland when it comes to lunch wars. But as I said, my mother, she tries to look after my body, she also looks after my soul. She wants me to go to church. And I was at Glastonbury during the summer. 3-day music festival. I come home, my mother, first question was the music good? It was, did you go to mass? I'm like, no, I didn't go to mass. Like, did they not have mass at the rock music festival? No, they didn't actually lay on a mass at the rock music festival. Would you not have walked to a church? Because like she's from that generation where it's still really big, you know? And like I go home sometimes and I go along just to hear the lovely stories. But like a lot of mass, if you haven't ever been to a mass, it's mostly standing and sitting and kneeling and sitting and standing. Because I think the priest has been playing Simon Says for the last 2,000 years. It's either Simon Says or it's low impact calisthenics for Catholics. It's one of the two. But like there's a lot of ritual, and like a lot of the older generation, they're very hardcore. Like my cousin, he lives in America, and the local church got up a ton of money to do up the church. They could have rebuilt the entire building out of iPads if they wanted to. And it came time to replace the kneelers, and there was one elderly parishioner. Her name was, I'm going to make it up, Elsa, there we go. Elsa, the Irish immigrant. And she was 112 years old. She was as holy as about 10 popes put together. And she was just like the pillar of the community, and they say to Elsa, darling, we're going to replace the kneelers. Do you want something soft like silk or satin or leather? And Elsa looks at them in the eyes and goes, marble. She wanted to kneel down on marble. I should point out at this stage that Elsa was made out of arthritis. This woman had arthritis in her earlobes, but she wanted to suffer in luxury, like a good Catholic. But at home, like a lot of the young people don't go to church anymore, and I think because it's a bit out of date, it's a bit out of touch, because it's all mumble, 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 amen. Mumble, 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 amen. What does amen even mean? I mean, have you ever used amen in a sentence?
Amen.
Amen? Well, you should be sectioned. You sound like you're mad if you say amen. If somebody asks you directions to Starbucks, see, you do sound mad, I told you. But if somebody asks you the directions to Starbucks, you're like, up the road, go left, there's a red phone box, turn right, and it's 100 yards away, amen. People would think you're crazy. So I think we need to update it and make it more accessible for the Facebook and the texting generation. So like imagine the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not steal, frowny face emoji. Thou shalt not kill, angry face emoji, OMG. And you, sir, thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's wife, winky face. That, you'd have tons of people coming back to the church with that. But the young people in Ireland, like they don't go to the church, and I'm worried, where is their source of misery? The fact of the matter is they've replaced the church with the gym. And they all go to the gym. And the thing is, they say great things about going to the gym. They say go to the gym and work on your core. Nuke the core, walk the core, blast the core. That sounds way too painful for my likings. But like, it is true, like, you should work on the core, and that's fantastic advice if you have a core. This isn't really a core, this is more of a central hub. If this was a core, this would be a core of whipped chocolate fondant wrapped in rich biscuity shell, hazelnuts, milk chocolate. I'm a Ferrero Rocher, really. People say about going to the gym, like, that you'll feel better going to the gym, that you'll like raise your endorphin levels, you'll raise your serotonin levels. I don't know what those words mean, but they sound good. But you don't feel good going to the gym, because you go to the gym and you see these gym creatures, these people made out of muscle and sex appeal and lung capacity. I go to the gym and I look like I'm made out of butter and pubic hair. One person actually just said, yeah. I look like butter and pubic hair. Thank you very much. There goes my self-esteem. Thank you, madam. But you don't feel good going to the gym, because you do see these gym creatures and you see them on the treadmill. They're on the treadmill for an hour. And they get off the treadmill, there's not a bead of sweat, there's not a hair out of place. They actually smell better than when they started. And you say, Seamus, what are you like after the gym? And I'm turning purple. It sounds like a lung is going to come out of my nostril. And I'd love to say that's after an hour on the treadmill, but that's actually just after trying to get through the turnstiles at reception. But there is something I do for my health. I don't do the healthy eating, and I don't go to the gym, but I do run. Now, if you're having a hard time picturing me running, go fuck yourself. Now, if you're having a hard time picturing me running, just take a common toy shop slinky, wrap it in bacon, and push it down the stairs. If you really want to see me run, show me that bacon wrap slinky and throw it. Then you'll see me run. Folks, we're just going to wrap up, and I'm going to have one more little story for you, but just before we get to that little story, I'm going to say this is a free show, but it isn't free for myself and Elaine to be here. We put a lot of our time and our money into it, and any appreciation you show monetarily, we will greatly appreciate, and we will love you forever and remember you till the day that we die. Because, I mean, we do need to eat. Well, I don't need to eat while we're at the festival. But Elaine would like to eat. So after this last bit, we will be collecting with the bucket at the back room, and I do appreciate you being here on this soggy evening. But I'm going to tell you the first story that I ever told as a joke, and that got me into comedy. And it's a true story from when I was about 11 years old, and I was in school, and we're gathered around, and somebody else was telling a joke. And one of the lads standing beside me, his name is Peter Taylor, as big and as dumb as a mountain. And we're all listening to the joke. And the joke is, Jack says to Jill, can I put my finger in your belly button? And Jill goes, all right. And Jack puts it in. And then Jill goes, that's not my belly button. And Jack goes, I know, that's not my finger. And we all bust out laughing, because we're 11-year-olds, and we're not mature like this crowd. We were all laughing except for Peter. And we turned to Peter and said, Peter, didn't you get the joke? And Peter got defensive. He said, yeah, it was somebody else's finger. Thank you, folks. You have been a wonderful audience, and have a wonderful Fringe.